My name's Ethan. I'm 29 now, and up until not too long ago, I thought I had a handle on how things worked in my family, the unspoken rules, the ones no one says out loud but everyone follows anyway. You only start to notice them after you've stepped out of line or ended up hurt because of them. Stuff like, don't get your hopes up, don't make your sister look bad, and whatever you do, don't act like your feelings actually matter. Growing up in that kind of house, it didn't strike me as strange. I figured it was normal that birthdays didn't really mean anything. That if someone forgot something important to you, that was your problem for caring in the first place. I learned to see being overlooked as a kind of strength, like it made me more grown up somehow. Maybe love in my family just looked different. Less warm hugs and more quiet practicality. At least, that's what I kept telling myself every time things didn't quite feel fair. Especially when it came to my younger sister, Ava, who always seemed to have the spotlight shining just for her. At first, it was all pretty subtle. Her birthdays were a little more exciting, a bit louder, with more people showing up and snapping pictures. I'd get a few store-bought cupcakes and a vague promise to do something later, a promise that usually vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, Ava had balloons, themed parties, even a clown one year. I chalked it up to the whole younger kid thing, figured my parents still had the energy back then. But the older we got, the more obvious it became that nothing was changing. Actually, if anything, the gap just got wider. When Ava turned 18, she got her first car, a shiny little compact thing with a red bow on top. When I hit the same milestone, they handed me a picture frame with a baby photo of me I'd already seen a million times. And a pat on the back, like that was supposed to mean something. I didn't make a fuss. That's what I'd gotten good at, swallowing disappointment until it felt like maybe it hadn't even happened. But this year felt different. Or maybe I was the one who'd changed. Before I continue, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, put likes, so let's continue. I just moved back home after spending a few years away, trying to patch things together again after a rough layoff in my freelance design work. I thought maybe being closer to family would help, give me a little emotional reset, you know? But it didn't. I showed up right in the middle of Ava's birthday bash, a 3-day backyard extravaganza that could have passed for a small wedding. There were big white tents strung with lights, a live band playing covers, catered food, sparklers, and even a rented photo booth with props and everything. Practically the whole neighborhood had shown up. My mom had on this new dress I'd never seen before. My dad was manning the grill and cracking jokes like his back hadn't just gone out last month. And Ava? She was wearing a sparkly crown, an actual crown, like a prom queen or something. No one even turned their head when I walked in. No, hey, Ethan. Or look who's home. Just silence, until Ava finally noticed me standing near the gate. Oh, she said, surprised like I'd crashed the party. I didn't think you'd be back this soon. I gave her a little shrug, tried to smile like it didn't sting. Got in this morning. She nodded and turned back to her friends, just like that. I stood there for a moment, half expecting someone to at least offer me a burger or ask how I'd been. But no one did. Eventually, I grabbed a soda and found a spot near the edge of the patio, sitting next to a folding chair with some frosting smeared across it. That was Ava's big day. Mine came 2 weeks later. I wasn't expecting anything major, honestly didn't think there'd be much of anything. But somehow, it still managed to hurt. I spent most of the day at the kitchen table, quietly working on some client revisions while everyone else went about their business like it was just any other Wednesday. Around 9 p.m., a message popped up in our family group chat. Just 5 words. Happy birthday, Ethan. No emoji. No call. No one even knocked on my door. 10 minutes later, my dad walked past me on his way to the garage. He didn't even stop, just tossed a casual, "Oh hey, there's some leftover pizza if you're hungry." I opened the fridge and found a greasy box with 2 slices inside. One of them already had a bite taken out of it. So yeah, that was my celebration. I didn't say anything. I just stood there with the fridge open, letting the cold air hit my face while my heart tried to figure out whether it should ache or just go numb. I took the pizza out, microwaved a slice, and sat down alone at the kitchen table. That's when my mom came in carrying a basket of laundry. She paused when she saw me sitting there. "Oh," she said, like she hadn't realized I was still awake. "You're too old for all that fuss anyway, right?" She gave a little smile, like it was some kind of joke. I didn't smile back, just gave her a slow nod, pushed the crust aside, and stood up. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Too old for fuss." I went back to my room, closed the door behind me, and started to pack. It wasn't a storm of anger or a dramatic moment. It was calm, deliberate, almost like I was running on autopilot. I gathered just the basics: my laptop, a few sets of clothes, and some of my old sketchbooks. I didn't even bother going through the garage or grabbing my tools from the basement. It all just felt pointless. Before leaving, I set the half-eaten pizza on the counter, dropped my bedroom key on the dresser, and stuck a little note on the fridge that said one word: "Thanks." And then I walked out. No yelling, no scene, no big goodbye. I just got in my car and drove. Honestly, I had no idea where I was heading at first. I ended up pulling into the apartment complex of an old friend who lived on the far side of town. We hadn't spoken in over a year, but he let me crash on his couch without hesitation or questions. Before my phone could start buzzing, I shut it off. Didn't even check if anyone had noticed I was gone. It wasn't until the next morning that I felt the ripple of my absence. Jake, my friend, was making coffee when my phone lit up on the counter. 3 missed calls from Aunt Meredith, a voicemail, and then a text. Why won't anyone tell me where you went? Your mom's in tears. Ava's panicking. What happened? I didn't reply to her message right away. I didn't answer any of them. By midday, my phone was overflowing with messages from every branch of the family tree. Some were frantic. Ethan, where are you? Please, just call us. Others felt like empty performances. Hey, man, it's Ava? Everyone's super worried. Can you let someone know you're okay? But the one that really hit me came from my mom. I don't know what I did to deserve this. You could have at least said goodbye. I almost laughed when I read that part. She didn't know what she did. That was the most painful part, really. Not the forgetting. Not even the favoritism. It was the total inability to see me. To understand me at all. I only existed when I was being quiet, or when I was useful. Now that I was neither, now that I'd stepped out of their carefully scripted roles, they finally noticed the space I left behind, like an empty chair at dinner. I didn't go back that week. I stayed at Jake's, sleeping on the couch, offering to cook, clean, anything to repay the kindness. He never asked for a thing, just handed me a spare key and said, stay as long as you need. That kind of simple generosity hit harder than any blood bond ever had. We spent our evenings watching old TV reruns, reminiscing about the high school garage band we once had that never made it past local talent shows. Every night, I'd see my phone light up with more missed calls and new messages. Ava started posting cryptic Instagram stories, screenshots of sad indie lyrics, plain black backgrounds with dramatic white text saying things like you never really know what someone's going through. My mom even posted an old picture of me as a toddler with the caption, "Miss you. Just come home." That one really got me, because she hadn't even remembered to buy me a cake. And now she was playing the grieving mother online. But I wasn't ready for what came next. A few days later, Jake handed me a small stack of mail. You got something, he said, frowning a little. I blinked, caught off guard. Here. He nodded. Looks like it's from your parents. It was this pale yellow envelope, my full name written in my mom's neat cursive handwriting. No return address, no stickers, nothing to hint at what might be inside. I stared at it for a moment, expecting maybe a heartfelt apology or at least some kind of explanation. But when I opened it, there was no letter, just a folded printout of a group chat screenshot. At first, I didn't get it. Then I saw my name. My full name, right there in the middle of a conversation I was never meant to see. I kept reading, and my stomach started to twist. It was a side group chat between my mom, Ava, and 2 of my aunts. The messages were recent, sent the night of my birthday, not long after I walked out. Aunt June wrote, "Did he really just leave like that?" Ava replied, "It's Ethan. He's always been dramatic." Then my mom typed, "I don't know what he wants anymore. We feed him, let him stay here for free, and still, it's not enough." Aunt Diana chimed in, ungrateful, like he's the only one who's ever had a tough year. And Ava, she added, "He's 29, not 12. What does he want? A pony and streamers?" That line, I must have read it 5 times. A pony and streamers. That was what my birthday had been boiled down to. A joke. A punchline. Something they all laughed about while probably finishing the rest of the pizza I didn't eat. That's when it clicked. No one had come looking for me out of love. They didn't miss me. They missed the version of Ethan who kept his head down, who paid for things without asking questions, who swallowed hurt with a smile and said, "Don't worry about it." Every time they walked all over my feelings like I was just part of the flooring, some welcome mat they didn't even glance at, I swallowed it. But this time, I folded the paper back up, slid it into the envelope, and placed it gently on Jake's coffee table like I was laying the whole thing to rest. "You good?" he called from the kitchen. I gave him a small nod. Then I opened my laptop, not to write to my mom, not to fire off some bitter comeback to Ava or shoot a guilt trip email to my aunts. None of that. Instead, I opened my inbox and started typing up something official, something cold and necessary. It was time to pull the plug. See, there was one little detail none of them had bothered to mention in that secret family group chat. I wasn't just some freeloading adult child taking up space. I'd been paying the property taxes on that house ever since Dad retired. I'd covered the final stretch of the mortgage with my freelance income quietly, without being asked. I paid off Ava's credit card bill when she went on a spending spree a couple summers ago. I covered the vet bills for Aunt Olivia's dog when she couldn't swing it. I never made a scene about it. Never asked for thanks. I just did it. Because I thought that's what family meant. But not anymore. I was done being their invisible safety net. So I made the calls. Sent the emails. froze the shared family account that I'd been managing and quietly funding for years. I canceled the automatic mortgage payments. I rang up the vet's office, where I'd been slowly chipping away at Aunt Olivia's balance, and told them from now on, send the bills directly to her. I logged out of every shared streaming platform, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, and changed the passwords. No more free access to my subscriptions. Oh, and the cherry on top? I found out the catering bill for Ava's over-the-top birthday bash had been charged to my emergency credit card, without my permission. So I called the catering company, paid it off, and then canceled the card on the spot. The fallout came quick. 3 days later, I got a text from Ava. It was 2 a.m. What is wrong with you, Ethan? My gym membership is frozen. Did you seriously cut me off? An hour after that, my mom left a tearful voicemail. I don't understand how you could be so cruel. We're family. You just vanished, and now you're punishing us? What did we ever do to deserve this? I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have something to say. I had plenty. But I knew exactly how that would go. No matter how honest I tried to be, they'd twist my words into drama. I'd be labeled petty, sensitive, overreacting. So I did the one thing I'd never tried in my 29 years of life. I stayed silent. And that silence? It hit harder than anything I could have yelled. By the end of the week, the family group chat was starting to crack. My cousin Lily, who usually avoided family conflict like it was contagious, texted me privately. Hey, what's going on? Everyone's losing it. Your mom's been calling people nonstop. Ava says you sabotaged something. I thought you were just taking space. Sabotage? That's what they were calling it now. Me cutting off the people who had turned me into a human ATM was now sabotage. Sure. I didn't respond to Lily either. I let her message sit unread, very much on purpose. I knew exactly how fast the story would spread. Now Ethan is ghosting the nice ones too. But here's the thing, it was never about who was nice. It was about who watched it happen. Who stood by while I was quietly erased, while I was drained dry, and never said a damn thing. Who laughed with the rest. Who stayed silent while I was becoming a ghost in my own family. I wasn't vanishing anymore. I was erasing them. Took 11 days for the real panic to set in. I know the exact count because on day 11, my phone rang at 7:48 in the morning. A number I didn't expect. Uncle Mark. Now Dean's never been one to get pulled into family drama. He lives 3 states away, barely shows up for weddings, holidays, anything. Last time we spoke, it was because I helped him fix his mic for a Zoom call back during lockdown. I answered groggily. Hello, Ethan. His voice was tight, concerned. Your mom's been blowing up my phone. She says the house might be going into default. That true? I rubbed my eyes. She's just telling you this now? He paused. I guess. Said you stopped paying for things? That you just up and left. I exhaled slowly, letting the weight of it all hang in the air. Did she mention the group chat? Another pause. What chat? So I told him. Not every ugly detail, but enough. About the birthday party, the leftover pizza, the cold indifference. The text thread where they laughed at me. The years I spent paying the bills while being treated like background noise. The constant invisibility, right up until I left. Dean went quiet. Just silence on the other end. Then finally, he said, low and stunned, holy crap. Yeah, I said quietly. Dean's voice softened. And you never said anything? I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. No one ever asked. He let out a slow sigh. Well, I can't say I blame you. Sounds like they just assumed you'd keep on taking it. Folks like that usually do. He didn't guilt me. Didn't say I should be the bigger person. Didn't suggest I smooth things over or keep the peace for the sake of family. He just said, if you need a real place to land, something more than a buddy's couch, I've got a guest room. Just throwing it out there. I almost lost it right then. Almost broke. But I held myself together. Thanks, Dean. Really? We hung up. And for the first time in what felt like days, I finally let my lungs expand. I finally breathed. But I knew this wasn't the end. Not even close. Later that afternoon, my mom decided to take it to Facebook. She posted an old, grainy photo of me at maybe 5 years old, grinning ear to ear, holding a helium balloon like life was still simple, still fair. And she tagged me. The caption read, I don't know what I did wrong. I tried my best. But some people just choose distance over love. I miss my son. The comments came fast, like a flood. Dozens of aunts, old church friends, cousins I hadn't seen since puberty, all swooping in with sympathy. You're such a good mother. Sending love and prayers. Kids these days have no idea what sacrifice means. A few even message me directly. Why are you being so cold to the woman who raised you? She looks heartbroken. Just talk to her. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about feelings anymore. This was PR. They couldn't reach me one-on-one, so now they were playing to the crowd. Rewriting the story in real time. Turning me into the villain, the ungrateful son who turned his back on his sweet, loving mother. And people were eating it up. Except one comment stood out like a needle in a haystack. It was from Aunt Grace, Dad's sister. The one who always stayed on the sidelines, never loud, never messy. She wrote, maybe if they'd offered him more than a leftover slice of pizza on his birthday, he wouldn't have walked out. No likes. No replies. Just that. But the silence that followed? Deafening. I stared at it for a long while, my pulse thudding, not with anger, but with something else. Validation. Someone else had seen it. Maybe not the whole picture, but enough of the frame to understand why I left. That evening, Ava texted again. This time, it was a screenshot of their bank app. Balance, minus $47.93. Auto payment declined. Her message underneath. Hope it was worth it. And that was the moment I realized we weren't dealing with hurt feelings anymore. We had crossed into full-blown revenge territory. While they were busy weaponizing baby photos and guilt-tripping extended relatives, I was gearing up for something they didn't even know was on the horizon. Something I'd been quietly preparing for years. See, I hadn't just walked away. I walked away with records, copies of transactions, login credentials, screenshots, payment histories. Proof. I knew exactly how much Ava still owed on her car loan. I knew Mom had skipped 4 payments on her second mortgage. And I knew very clearly whose names were tied to every document. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about freedom. And I was finally ready to claim it. I spent the next few days getting everything in order, not fueled by spite, not driven by rage, but by the clear-headed calm that comes when you finally stop holding your breath for an apology that's never going to come. I didn't want to burn it all down. I just wasn't going to keep holding up a house that was never mine to carry. That night, I sat at Jake's coffee table, my laptop open, documents spread like a map in front of me. He walked in carrying 2 mugs. Chamomile, he said, handing me one. Figured you needed something non-lethal. I huffed a small laugh. Thanks, man. He sat beside me, glanced at the mess. You sure you want to go through with it? I looked down at the stack, Ava's late balances, the house deed, all the quiet burdens I'd shouldered without a word. Things they'd never acknowledge because acknowledging them would mean admitting they needed me. I'm sure, I said. They made me the safety net. Time for them to see how it feels without one. First order of business. The bank. I'd co-signed the second mortgage back in 2020 when Dad lost his job. That whole family comes first speech had been delivered with such conviction. They made it sound like saying no would have been a betrayal. They swore it was temporary. Just a cushion. A few months max. Now it was 2025, and my name was still on that loan. So I called the bank. Asked them to begin the process of removing me from the mortgage. It wasn't simple. I had to submit letters, document every payment I'd made, dig through old emails and bank statements. I even called in a favor from a client who worked in real estate law to help me navigate it. But I had the proof. Years of it. Every dollar tracked. Every promise they broke recorded in cold, impersonal numbers. Next, I forwarded Ava's credit card statement straight to her inbox. No explanation, no sugarcoating, just a short message. This is yours now. Good luck. After that, I called up Mr. Blake, the family accountant. He was the kind old guy who used to slip me butterscotch candies at tax meetings when I was little. I told him I was stepping away from all financial obligations tied to the family trust my grandparents had set up. My parents had been tapping into it for years under the excuse of upkeep and necessary family expenses. But I'd seen the truth buried in the line items, recurring wine deliveries, spa weekends, even a business retreat Ava took to Maui last spring. There was a long pause on the line. I see, Mr. Blake said, voice soft with concern. And you're sure about this, Ethan? I'm beyond sure, I said. They made their choices. Now I'm making mine. Once the paperwork was in motion, things started to unravel fast. The group chat turned into a war zone. June, finally, saw the screenshots of their texts from earlier. Someone had leaked them to her. I didn't know who, but if I had to guess, it was Susan. The guilt-laced Facebook posts slowed to a trickle. Ava's Instagram went quiet, eerily so. Still, no one called. No apology. No admission of fault. Just silence punctuated by passive-aggressive captions and shallow sympathy grabs. Until the day the foreclosure notice landed on their doorstep. The bank had reviewed everything I'd sent. The years of receipts, payment history, loan details. They agreed I'd fulfilled my share of the mortgage. But since the others were already 3 months behind, and with no incoming payments to cover the gap, the foreclosure process kicked in. That's when the phone finally rang. It was Dad. We hadn't spoken directly since Christmas, and even then, all he'd said was pass the potatoes. Ethan, he said, voice rough and clipped. We need to talk. I stood in Jake's kitchen, phone on speaker, arms crossed. I'm listening. What are you doing? He barked. They're threatening to take the house. I'm not doing anything, I said calmly. I'm just not paying anymore. There's a difference. You're being vindictive. Over what? A birthday. That made me laugh. I couldn't help it. It just broke out of me. This isn't about a birthday, Dad. This is about years of being treated like a walking wallet. Like a backup plan. like a ghost in my own family. He snapped. No. But I cut in, my voice steady. You're the ones who made me feel like I wasn't even worth the cost of a cake. And now you expect me to step in and fix it all again? Not this time. There was a beat of silence. Then he said, low and cold, you'll regret this. No, I said. I regret not doing it sooner. And I hung up. A few days later, it all went public. Ava posted a long, unusually somber caption under a photo of the house. It was full of phrases like hard times, betrayal from within, and rebuilding from the ashes. She didn't name me, but everyone could read between the lines. The comments section lit up. Some people called her brave. Others asked what had happened. A few, clearly more informed than the rest, hinted that maybe this was a long time coming. And then Susan commented, maybe if you treated your brother with half the grace you expect from strangers, this wouldn't have happened. Over 300 likes before Ava deleted it. That weekend, I went to see Uncle Mark. His house was small but calm, clean, quiet. We sat on the couch, drinking coffee, watching a baseball game neither of us cared about. And for the first time in years, I felt something I didn't even realize I'd been missing. Peace. Not happiness. Not closure. Just the freedom to exist without earning it. Weeks passed. Then months. I found a new apartment not far from Dean's place. Landed a solid client contract that helped level out my income. I even started seeing someone. Her name was Zoe. A photographer with calloused hands and a love for bitter coffee and morning hikes. She asked about my family once. Just once. I told her the truth. She didn't flinch. Didn't pity me. Just nodded slowly and said, that sounds heavy. I'm glad you left. One afternoon, as summer faded into fall, I got something in the mail. No return address. Just a plain envelope. Inside was a birthday card. A real one this time. No sparkles. No cartoon animals. Just a plain card, no printed message. Tucked inside was a single $20 bill and one handwritten line. Cursive so tight, it looked like it was holding its breath. I was wrong, but I don't know how to fix it. It was from Mom. I didn't respond. Because the thing is, when you've spent years being treated like an afterthought, you start to believe it. You mold yourself around other people's comfort. You shrink to fit their silence. Until one day, you break. Quietly. Cleanly. And no one even notices. But I did. And I left. Not for drama. Not for revenge. Not even out of anger. I left because I deserved more than a place in the background of my own life. And I'm not going back. Not for guilt. Not for blood. Not even for $20 and an apology scratched out too late to matter. I finally chose me. And that was the best birthday gift I've ever gotten.